Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and good times. We hope to help you get the most out of your grappling ability and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BjjBrick Podcast. This is episode 360. Today we're talking about Street Smart BJJ, and we'll have fun doing that. I've got my buddies Gary and Joe here with me, and my name is Byron. I'll start this off with a quote. The quote is, "Hire character, train skill." And that's by Peter Schultz. Guys, I think that's an interesting thing to think about when hiring a person for a job, but it's also kind of important to think about when you look at your teammates. And you may not be, the head coach or the person running the school, but when you look at your teammates and who's going to be helping you and who you're going to be helping, I think character's a big thing. Like, skill's important. Sure, you want, you're that fairly new white belt and you want the black belt to help you, but maybe character is just as important. Maybe getting 100% of this really nice blue belt is possibly better than getting a half thought out answer from a black belt who's distracted and doesn't even know your name. Guys, I'll throw it to Joe first. Joe, what do you think about hire character, train skill?
Well, thinking about it as it relates to jiu-jitsu, I was thinking that it's not a hire, but it's sort of a promotion. It's very common for schools to have a number of blue belts and purple belts that are assisting in the class. And most blue belts that I know of look forward to that, and they like to do it. And so there's not necessarily a shortage of people for the coach to ask. And I have seen before where it sort of appears that the invite to fill that role is based on how good of an athlete or how good of how much jiu-jitsu the student knows. And honestly, I've seen where that doesn't create quite as good a vibe as other coaches I've seen. They seem to put all of the emphasis on the character. They want the guy that's up in front of the class to have that character that they're looking for. And I guess that's the best I can relate it to jiu-jitsu. I don't know, Byron, what do you think?
No, that's a good way to look at it as far as, who's going to be helping out and who's going to be doing things and working with other people. They're going to be representing your school. They're going to be representing the name on the sign, and sure, people will get to certain belt levels based on their skill or whatever. But who do you want to be running the class when you're gone on vacation? Is it the highest belt every time? I would say no. It's the best person for that job. Gary, any thoughts on that one?
I just think about you setting up BjjBrick. Trying to start it off. First of all,
we'll get it going someday, Gary.
I know you did that. LLC, started a company, and you had no skill and you had no character. So you're like, okay, I need some character. So you hired me. And
a good price,
no skill,
Gary.
But I have character. So then you're like, man, we need a little more character. And you hired Joe. So, between us, we got 2 characters and 0 skill. And, look how this thing's taken off. 360 episodes, the number 2 ranked martial arts podcast, according to one website. And, look what it's done. I think it's a great quote. I go back to the business world. And, that's character, I think, is huge. You can teach skill. You can get the skill. But are you going to have somebody who's, will go for jiu-jitsu, down for the team? I guess that would work for work also, or you're a team player. Because we can teach the rest of the stuff. Are you going to show up? Work, that's the hardest thing it should be the easiest thing to do, but get somebody to show up. Are you going to show up to practice? If you don't show up to practice, your team suffers. I guess maybe I'm a big character person because my skill level has never been top notch. So I try to make up for it in character.
Oh, Gary, you're hard on yourself with the skill and very gracious on the character thing. But
I can think of going back to a training partner that Byron and I have. I'm going to give a shout out to Craig Kennedy. Craig Kennedy is probably the highest character individual you'll ever meet. What I like, I take it back to the jiu-jitsu realm, is Craig is always welcoming a new person. He's always working in with a new person. He's always working with a hurt person who needs a partner just to maybe try something. He's always talking through issues with people, and not everybody will take the time to do that. So it's great to have those, high-level character people in your gym, on your team.
And he's got a move named after him, the Kennedy Clutch.
He does.
We should put that on YouTube so everybody can enjoy the Kennedy Clutch. Yeah. I think that's having people of character around you, of good character, is it's very important. I mean, obviously you want skilled individuals as well, but to some respect, like depending on the job, depending on the task, maybe they need to walk in the door with some skill, but just flip it around and look at it totally backwards. If the character's bad, how good do they have to be for you to even think about having them on the team or having them work for you? Like that's not even a good option. They're gonna rob you blind, or they'll do something bad.
They're gonna run people away from your gym. A business owner needs to make money. You need to at least break even, to keep the store open, keep the gym open. But we're wanting to make money, make a living off of this. And if you have somebody who's running people away, I don't care how good that person is. It's counterproductive.
Yeah, and if it's a character issue and a skill issue, if they have high enough skill level, they might not run people away now, but that will come eventually. You think about you build a team based on the most skill, you might win in the short run. But in the long run, like Gary said, the lack of character will end up driving people away. You'll have fleeting success instead of long-term success.
Yeah, we can think of a case study with this. Way back, I think I don't know what city it was, but it was out in California. There was a school, and a guy moved out there from Parsippany, New Jersey, and his name was Daniel LaRussa, and he was looking for a gym to join, and so he stopped into Cobra Kai there on the corner, and what he ran into was the teacher over there. I forgot his name, but
he was a bad dude, though.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of character, and some of the talent he had there, like Johnny Lawrence. He didn't have the best character. Dutch was the same way. Not the best character. So they probably would have had a more successful gym, but in the long run, the gym kind of died, and it went from being a major movie to now being on YouTube Plus. Or YouTube Red, or whatever that's called.
That was a quality segment, Gary.
Thank you.
that was good.
Well, Joe, speaking of quality segments, I think you have our off the mat lesson.
Wait, did you say quality, Byron?
Quantity segments? Quality. Okay. I'm going to go with quality for Joe.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So you guys being Midwestern guys and Byron being a little younger, I don't know what kind of impression it made on you, but the Exxon Valdez oil spill happened in March, the year that I turned 21. And being on the West Coast, and I was just trying to get in the fishing business, it was a big deal there. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Byron, you probably weren't born yet.
I was born, and I do remember seeing on the news and seeing, different animals covered in oil and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Basically, the ship lost, 90% of its cargo or something like that. Horrible oil spill, oil all up and down the beaches. And within 3 or 4 days, the cleanup got started. And within a few weeks of that, we started to get word back from some people that we knew that had gone up there to do the cleanup, and they were getting like $12 an hour and 70, 80 hours a week. And they would just work like a 30-day contract. That's what they're signed up for. And then they were planning to take a week off and then go back for another contract. And, this is back minimum wage was still like $3.45 an hour or something. And a labor job for a guy with a high school diploma was $6 or $7 an hour. I had a job that I thought I could afford to lose, and so did my buddy Ralph, my roommate. So we scraped together the last few pennies we had, and we flew up to Alaska. We were told, you just fly up to Alaska, you go to Anchorage, get on a small plane, and fly down to the Kodiak Island, and here's where the employment office is, where they're hiring everybody, and they're going to set you up, and you'll be out of there with a job the same day. You just need to buy a backpack and sleeping bag and all this stuff. So we went and got geared up, pretty much spent everything we had to do that, flew up there, and when we show up at the office, the lady basically says, "Well, boys, you're a day late and $1 short."
Oh.
What happened is, and this is very understandable to me, the Alaskan residents, and specifically the Alaskan natives, were like, wait, we're the ones that are going to be most negatively affected by this long term. We should be the first ones to get these jobs. And so they took that to court, and there was an injunction, and she said, we've got to process all the Alaskan Native all the Alaskan Native apps first, then the resident apps, and then we'll start on the lower 48 again. We're like, how long is that going to be? She said, could be a few weeks, could be a week or two more than that. We're like, well, crap. And she says, if you're not wanting to spend any money on lodging, there's an island. You just go. It's not really an island. It's just a high tide. You might not be able to get on or off the island. But she said, people camp out there, so there you go. So yeah, it's called Near Island, and so we went out there, set up camp. And the next day we go in town because we're like, well, let's go find the unemployment office and see if we want to find a job. Let's figure out if we want to get some money, Western Union to us, and go home. We'll figure out what we're going to do. So we walk into town, and we run into this kid, maybe 17, 18 years old, and get to asking him about jobs. And I'm asking him, where the fishing docks are. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll get a job on a boat or something. And when he finds out we're staying on the island, he's like, man, come stay up at my place. Like, your place? Well, it's my mom and I. She's out of town, so come on up. So we gather our stuff. We go up to this kid's house. The next day, we're walking into town, and we hear this guy say, hey, you want a job? What the hell? Turn around, this guy. He offers us $10 an hour to go do a roofing job, and neither one of us put on a roof before. So we did that. Yeah. And a few days later, this kid's mom gets home, and she says, well, if you guys want to just make a little money while you're here, if you go down to this office, they hire for the fish plants. And they'll provide you transportation to one of the fish plants. They've got bunkhouses set up, and you can do that. So we took her up on that. We went down and applied for the job, got the job, and they put us in a little bush plane and flew us up to Naknek. It's part of the Aleutian Island chain up on the Bering Sea side. And we worked for 5 or 6 weeks and made enough money to break even, and man, I tell you, being in Alaska in the summertime with the it's daylight like that, it's a trip. Really nice. We really enjoyed our time up there. And after our 5 or 6 weeks in Naknek, we went. We were going to go work another fish plant for another salmon season. We ended up bailing on that. But while we were heading there, we went through what they call the Inside Passage. There's like islands on one side and the mainland on the other, and it's sort of protected, and they've got a ferry system that runs in there. And so it's like 3:00 in the morning, and it's a sunset on one side over snow-covered mountains, and on the other side it's a full moon over snow-covered mountains. And it's just like that for 3 or 4 hours, and then the sun comes back up, and pretty wild. We had a good time. And so then we hitchhiked up to Fairbanks just to see Fairbanks. And on the way out of there, we got caught in a rainstorm, man. And then this guy picks us up, and he takes us he says, where are you guys going? I said, Anchorage. We're going back to Anchorage. He's like, man, that's 300 miles. He said, I'm going halfway. So we head there, and he's like, hey, why don't you guys just come to my house, dry your clothes out, have some pizza, have some beer, and get heading in the morning. I'm like, all right. So we do this, and it turns out it's just a rambling adventure. I could tell you 15 more things that happened up there that were really crazy. But the end result is I've always looked back on this as something that at that point it was a highlight, and it's something I've just never regretted doing. And it turns out, I don't think we realized this at the time, but I think we needed the experience and the adventure much more than we needed the money. Neither one of us felt like it was a bust. We both had a great time. And I think that any big endeavor that you undertake will have some similarities to this adventure that my buddy Ralph and I went on, like jiu-jitsu. And one of those similarities is there's probably going to be a point sometime early on where it makes sense to just bail. And in jiu-jitsu, oftentimes that's a nagging injury or the blue belt blues, whatever those are, or maybe a change in schedule at work, so now you can't train as often. It's easy to get discouraged. And so you pull the plug on it. It makes sense, right? It just makes more sense for me to not be doing this. Well, it made more sense really for us to just get a flight home after we got up there for 2 days, or after we got up there and found out that we weren't going to get the jobs we thought we were going to get. Made sense just to go home, but boy, I'm really glad I didn't. So I think that's one lesson that we could relate to jiu-jitsu. And the other is you never know when saying yes to going and doing something is going to turn out great. So in your jiu-jitsu journey, if you have an opportunity to travel and train, go to a week-long camp or something, you might be hesitant to do it, but you never know when going to do something like that's going to turn out to be the adventure of a lifetime.
Man, that is about the definition of turning lemons into lemonade. You get there and immediately basically smacked in the face. That's not happening anymore. You're not making a bunch of money doing that job. Well, and then by the time it's over, you enjoyed the experience. You grew from it. It was great. And as I'm reflecting on this, do you think that some of the little short part-time jobs you got were just vacated by the locals doing the oil cleanup, and you got their open spots?
Maybe.
Like the roofing thing. Are those roofers right now, were they cleaning oil and you took you're just like, I'll do a roof, and they did that?
It could be. But honestly, I just got the impression that more people, especially back then, but I think it's still a little bit true, more people up in Alaska just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. Like you could have a company where you put roofs on and you don't actually have any employees. You just hire guys off the street, and maybe they're a little looser about the under the table kind of thing, because it was just, here's $100 when we were done. Gave us each $100, and got the impression that was fairly normal. But think about it. That's the dude that let us stay at his house, and then that kid and his mom, two separate people that just sure, come crash at our place. Alaskans are a different breed of people.
So are Texans.
Yeah, but in a different way.
That's Joe's from Texas, or in Texas right now.
Joe, I was looking at your story from another way. I know I've talked numerous times about me being scared to try jiu-jitsu and, driving, past the building the first time and being afraid to get out of my car and driving back home. I was thinking of, you and your buddy just pulling the trigger and just taking off. You don't really know 100% what's out there. I mean, you thought you were going to get that job right off the bat, but, you took the chance. You Christopher Columbus'd it. You just took a chance, and look how much you've learned out of that. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. If let's say even if I did, try jiu-jitsu, I let's say, I tell my story that I drove past the place the first day. I chickened out and, felt like, just terrible that I was afraid to do it, and then ended up showing up the next day. But even let's say it wasn't for me, you're talking about time to bail. Let's say I put 3 months in, I paid 3 months straight, and I went in there and, I had the guts to go in there and try it. But then I find out, hey, maybe this isn't for me, and I bail 3 months later and, go back to, playing basketball or lifting weights or whatever. But I can guarantee you, no matter what, in those 3 months, even though it may have not been your favorite thing to do, you learned something. So that's kind of what I took out of your story. I just, I think you said you were 18 years old, and, just to have the guts to hop on a plane, take every last penny you have and go on an adventure. I admire that.
Well, thanks, Gary. I was 21, but that's all still true. Something I thought about while you were talking, too, is, I told you I was trying to break into the commercial fishing industry, which wasn't really easy. But things picked up really quick after I got back from Alaska, and I always just attributed that to, that's just the way things go, or maybe I got a lucky break or something. But, maybe I came back with a little more confidence or something. Character, like Byron said, growth. So, yeah. And
Gary just mentioned his brief story of driving by the jiu-jitsu gym saying, man, not tonight, I'll do it. And it kind of, as he would refer to it as like chickening out or not doing it and being disappointed in himself, him sharing that story has motivated several people to actually just walk in the door for the first time and start their jiu-jitsu, hearing Gary's story. And I think that's where the lemons turned into lemonade for Gary's story. And Joe, man, why didn't you just Google it before you left for Alaska? You could have figured that out.
I know, right? Even when I was there, I should have just whipped my cell phone out.
Yep, should have just got the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Man, different times. That was what I Googled it. I did Google it. It was 1989 was the oil spill for Exxon Valdez.
Yeah. But you think about it, Joe and his buddy at 21 years old took off out there and did a lot of stuff. And, I bet those guys became much more street smart.
That's true.
Yeah. If only I had a little bit of jiu-jitsu to go along with my street smart, that would have been actually more beneficial.
Yeah.
But now I'll try and do my best to take the two and put them together. And I like to think maybe I will have street smart Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
There we go. So to start off our main topic here, I typed in street smart on Google. Any person would do that to try to get more street smart, is just to learn about it online. Wait, that kind of goes counterintuitive. No, and I found some definitions, or I found street smarts divided into 4 categories on Urban Dictionary. I'll just read the 4 categories: getting along with others, common sense, self-defense, and BS detection. No when someone's trying to lie to you. And those are pretty good. That's a pretty good place to start as far as looking at what is street smart, and then what is jiu-jitsu street smart, and how do you gain from that, And so I think the biggest category people are thinking of, the third one, is self-defense, knowing how to defend yourself from an attacker. That's pretty important, and I think jiu-jitsu covers a lot of that. So I think if you look at the self-defense classes, they're going to teach you like a little bit of basic moves, but they also talk a lot about, walking with confidence, looking at people in the eye on the street, or making appropriate social gestures, not being an easy target, and that sort of thing. If you're walking down the street and you're looking at your phone as you walk down the street, and it's not a safe street or whatever, like, you're an easy target no matter who you are. Joe is liable to mug that guy even if he's 6'5" and 270. If the guy's looking at his phone, Joe's going to end up making a move and attacking that guy.
So why do you take the guy from Texas and make him the criminal, Byron?
I was going to say only on the weekends. I don't do my muggings Monday through Friday.
Well, he had to survive on the mean streets of Alaska.
He does it under the table. Right. Yeah. But Byron, you're talking about that, being aware of your surroundings, and I was watching something really, really cool the other day, and it was Tim Kennedy, the UFC fighter, the jiu-jitsu guy. He's got a website where he does training, and not just a website, but he's got these weekend training seminars. But I was watching a video from it, and I think it was under like sheepdog response or something, because I actually went to the website and checked some more stuff out. But man, he was really just talking about just being aware of your surroundings, and it was kind of cool. He was talking about, you go into a grocery store, and he's like, first of all, based off of where people park, you can tell a lot about that person. And, he's talking about people who park in the front, maybe handicapped, maybe elderly. He's like, all you got to do is look at the cars and look at a bumper sticker and the car, and you can almost tell everything about the people who, who owns this car. And, I thought that was pretty crazy. I never really thought about that. But, if you see my kid is a what do you call it? A honor roll, at so-and-so middle school, you already kind of guessing the age of that person. But man, he was really just talking about, as you're walking, like you said, you see what's going on. You look, does something look out of place? And he's like, once you figure something looks out of place, then you hone all your intellect and everything onto that one little spot. And, it was really pretty cool, just the way he was talking. He's always prepared. And, a lot of times I put on my just a pair of slides, to go to the grocery store or whatever. But, he's like, you wear a pair of slides to the grocery store. If you need to run,
a pair of what? What are slides?
Sandals.
Sandals.
Sandals you could not run in if you had to.
Yeah, kind of like flip-flops, whatever. But he's like, you can't run in them. He's talking about the jeans he was wearing. He gets jeans that, fit a little bit loose so he can kick you in the head if he has to. But, it was just some incredible stuff. I spent like an hour just listening to some of his YouTube videos there, and it was really, really informative.
Yeah, Joe, I watched a few of them too. They were good. I too wear baggy jeans in case I have to kick someone in the knee.
You guys are making me want to sell my tight pants. Get rid of those.
Well, the good thing about you, Byron, is you're always wearing yoga pants. So, you're always... But, so let's just take a jiu-jitsu guy. I bet, Byron, half your T-shirts have something to do with jiu-jitsu. Joe, I bet you in the same boat. I can tell you half of mine are jiu-jitsu. So, like he was talking about, he's like predators. They pick out the weak. They don't go for another apex predator. So let's say Byron's walking down the street in a tank top. If you've seen Byron's arms, you would know that he's not going to look very intimidating. And yoga pants. And me and Joe are on the other side, and Joe's got a skull and crossbones shirt on, a Glock hat, and I got a jiu-jitsu shirt on, and me and Joe are walking, by each other. Byron's probably going to be the one getting mugged over there by himself wearing his yoga pants.
Gary, it's funny you mentioned T-shirts, because there's two places. Well, they both have one thing in common, probably, but there's two places I won't wear a jiu-jitsu T-shirt. If I go out in public, like to watch fights or something, like we've got a place, Beef O'Brady's. It's sort of a hot dog.
Beef O'Brady's.
Yeah,
I like
you familiar with them?
No, but it sounds like a Chef Boyardee. Can of Chef Boyardee.
No, it's good food, drinks, but they show the fights. Okay. And if I go there to see, I won't wear a jiu-jitsu shirt to a place like that or to like a concert where people are drinking, because I don't need some young dude to think like, oh, that guy thinks he's tough over there in his jiu-jitsu shirt, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's what I know. We've talked about this before, and you do the same thing Byron did. I know you told me when you go to concerts or you go out to eat, you always wear your yoga pants.
Like, yeah, because who's going to mess with a guy in yoga pants? You can't submit me.
All right. Comment I have. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Or I don't even know what I was going to say.
Okay.
But I just thought, I think Tim Kennedy has some great stuff. Just, the way to be aware. Like Byron said, walking confident. Don't be looking down at your phone. Be aware of your surroundings. And then when you see something that looks weird, start honing in on that. Then your brain's going to start working overdrive, like, just trying to figure out a little things that's happening. Do I need to get out of here? What the heck is happening? And how am I going to keep myself and my loved ones or whoever I'm at safe?
Yeah, I remember when I was in Old San Juan on a vacation with my wife, and we were...
Did you have yoga pants on?
Yeah, probably. I'm just assuming, yeah, because that's, why not,
Well, actually, a vacation destination like that, Gary, I'm pretty sure he was wearing a Speedo.
Yeah, backwards.
Anyway, I don't think of Old San Juan as being like dangerous or a bad place. It's kind of a touristy area of the city. we were walking. It's some places a half mile away or something like that. Do we get a cab or Uber or whatever, or do we walk? We decided to walk. It was nice out, and so I get my phone. I program in where to go, and I start off. I'm just looking at my phone, and we're walking the right direction, and we're going. But I was like, that's not smart. Like, not only am I looking at my phone, I'm looking at a map on my phone. Like, I don't belong. Nothing could have said I don't belong here any more than that. Well,
didn't you
putting my phone away between peeking at it occasionally was, I think, a better idea than just holding it while I walk from one destination and announcing to everybody, I am going to be lost if I don't have my phone in my hand.
Well, didn't you go somewhere else too, and somebody took a picture with you and tried to steal your wallet?
Yeah,
while you out of the country or something.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
No, one more thing on Gary's comment. So you don't have to. My thought is you don't have to look tough. You don't have to have you said a Glock hat or something like that. Like, I think you just have to look like not a target. And I think that having a hat that says Glock on it or a T-shirt that says Glock on it or whatever, you don't have to pick the Glock brand, but it's more likely to get your car broken into while you're gone than having a plain hat. Like, that's pretty realistic as well. Like,
you got that right.
So,
Yep.
So not bragging about that sort of a thing is probably a better move than to brag about it. Or I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But yeah,
I could see that point. But I also see the point that, man, somebody with a Glock hat on, he probably likes firearms, and is this a concealed carry state?
Sure.
There's a good chance this guy's carrying. If he's not carrying a firearm, I bet that dude is carrying a blade. So you're always. I don't know. I guess that's the way I look at it, but I see what you're saying too. I mean, shoot, this is probably a good car to break into. There's a chance I might be able to get a handgun, but then you got to weigh that. You got to go back to all that stuff Tim Kennedy's saying, all that stuff in your brain. Is it worth it to me to try to break into this guy's car? And I think he's a firearm fanatic, and he comes out and he's carrying. I could be in some major trouble.
Absolutely. So how that, and I'm not going to tell people how to rob somebody's car, but
that's episode 361.
Gary, you get out of your car and some people watch you, and he's got a Glock hat on or whatever, and you walk off. I walk off with Gary and stay on my phone and say he's still heading north. He's still going north. He's looking at speedos, and I just stay on the contact with the phone while Joe goes and breaks your window and gets into your car. And
let's go back to exactly what we were talking about. You're on your phone the whole time. So when you're chasing me down, some other dude's going to freaking clock you, because they're playing the knockout game. They're going to pull your pants down and steal your wallet.
I'm not advocating doing what I was saying. Like, I'm not advocating Joe go in and rob and run around the car. But there's a thing. If somebody's following you on their phone, they could be watching you and reporting on what you're doing.
You don't need to follow people on their phone because we're all chipped anyhow.
Yeah. All right, Gary. Let's talk a little bit.
You guys want to talk about the coin shortage?
Oh man! So, the reason for this whole topic for Street Smart and BJJ is I've kind of had a change in my own thought process of self-defense. My typical kind of, I don't know, operating system that I'm running on is people don't like to fight. That's not a thing people want to do. It's even when somebody says they want to fight, most people don't want to fight. They're trying to save face. They're trying to look tough or whatever. So I've been operating that for, 15 years or so. Like, not right when I started jiu-jitsu, but after maybe 5 or so years after jiu-jitsu, I'm like, yeah, no one's going to want to actually fight anybody. And so I think that attitude that I've had is probably accurate, but it's a wrong way to look at the world because it would lead me to misguess a few people possibly. And although it may not happen very often, and it really hasn't happened to me, but if it does happen, it's like wearing a seatbelt. Unlikely that today I'm going to need my seatbelt, but I sure wore it every time I got in a vehicle. So me making a wrong assumption just once could be a life-altering mistake. So I need to assume that if somebody looks like they want to fight, that there's a good chance that that's real. Even if it's not, I need to err on the side of caution. And I need to make moves to de-escalate the situation and resolve the issue in a way that would end in both of us being happy, opposed to me looking at the person like, this isn't real. I remember one situation where I was on a call as a firefighter, and the guy, he was mad at us, and there were no police on scene yet, and we were in the garage, and he's cussing and all these obscenities. Gary, I'd hate for you to have to hear those.
Why
sorts
was he
of
mad
things.
at you?
He was just mad at the situation more than anything. He needed to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go. He was getting mad. It's
Can you
been
force him
years.
to go to the hospital?
Not really, but we could try to convince. And it depends if he's like, he might have been like suicidal to where we actually could take him. But he was like, F this, I'm going back inside. And I had already maneuvered myself between him and the door to inside the house. And I was like, no, you can't go back inside. We have to stay out here in the garage. And so you can't let somebody back inside because who knows what's inside it. All kinds of weapons. Even in just the kitchen, he can grab a knife. But you got to assume in Kansas or in most places there could easily be a gun. So I was assuming, I'm not going to let him in the house. That's the thing. And he puffed up and told me he was going to kick my butt and all this stuff. And I was like,
Well, I saw the yoga pants.
if you looked at me and saw those yoga pants, no, if you looked at me, you would think I was perfectly willing to just fight this guy. And he was just a young punk, basically, like, much like I was at that age, like just kind of a little more agitated than he should have been. But like, I don't think he would have physically proposed, had a threat to me. But I was just like, hey, I'm standing here in the doorway, man. There's nothing, you're not going inside. And I didn't try to de-escalate it. I didn't try to, kind of talk him down. I just put the wall up and said, you're not doing that. And that may or may not have been the right decision, but I was assuming the whole time he doesn't really want to fight me. And I also wasn't particularly afraid of fighting him if that was the case. But my underlying thought was he doesn't want to fight me should be, you know what, he might go right through me. He might really want what's inside his house right now. And I need to be trying to convince him that it's best to stay out here in the garage. It's best to wait. The police are going to be here and they're going to talk to him as well or whatever. But so just kind of my underlying thought process of somebody who, I've mispronounced the word process twice now, who is saying or looking like they want to fight, I think that's usually a bluff. And I should just assume that it's probably more realistic than I'm assuming. And to take that as a serious thing. Because I could care less at him telling me he's going to kick my butt. Because A, I didn't think he was going to do it. And B, I don't think he could do it. But I should at least think, he's going to try. So that's just one example. And I've, pretty much everything like that I've been involved with has been at work instead of, I don't go out to the club. I don't go to places where trouble happens, unless you count Walmart as one of those places. And I don't try not to go there very often.
There you go, picking on Walmart again.
Amazon's safer for me. So that's just that kind of spurred my thought about, I'm doing this wrong. I'm thinking that people don't actually want to fight. And that's, I think, true, but I should assume that there's a good chance that they will. Just as I put my seatbelt on, there's a good chance someday I'll be in a pretty serious accident. And I don't want it to be today, but if it is, I'm ready. This is as ready as I can be.
Yeah, I think that's a smart change in your mindset there. I guess I've never been as confident in humanity as you have. I've never doubted that some people just like to fight. Maybe it's some of the guys I knew when I was fishing and some of the places we hung out. But yeah, I always just assumed there were some people out there that enjoyed fighting. And if you were available for a training partner, it just might be your night. But my question to you, Byron, is as you've changed your mindset a little bit, has that changed the way you've approached your training at all?
So this just happened like a week ago that I thought like that's a bad way to run things. So it hasn't had any effect on, post-COVID training. That's basically minimal, if anything. And then I haven't been in a situation where it's actually mattered. I also don't know how much of having that thought process have helped me not be in fights, because as the guy sitting there threatening at me, I'm sitting there smiling like I don't
This guy's crazy.
Like, does he? I maybe not want to fight this guy. Like, I smile a lot, you know. And when somebody's yelling at me or is trying to puff up, it may be hard for me to not smile and think, oh, this will be interesting. We that's one thing about jiu-jitsu. We spar for fun. It's a rough sport, and if you can't you can't look at somebody and say he's going to not be good at fighting. But most people are not going to be good at fighting. And in this kid situation, this young man who has lots of trouble in his life, I don't think he was a dedicated martial artist or anything. And I just didn't have any fear. So I likely had a big old smile on my face, like, no, you're not getting through the door, man. You stay in the garage. And I didn't, and maybe that attitude helped him decide not to try me any more than he needed to. But like Gary says, wearing those yoga pants, it does prevent a lot of attacks on a guy like me.
You know, you were blocking that door, but you had no clue what was in that house. You know, when you were talking about that, also I kept thinking his girlfriend. You know, I watch a lot of cops. That girlfriend's all of a sudden in there. She's getting agitated because, you're punking out her boyfriend, and she comes up behind you and guts you like a fish.
I was figuring he'd get shot with a shotgun, but getting stabbed. Getting stabbed.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny. You were thinking the same thing. You know, I mean, I love the idea that we block the door because you don't want that guy to go in. You have no clue what he's there. But like you were saying, there were no cops. Nobody's entered that premises and cleared those rooms.
Sure.
You really don't know what's coming up behind you in a DV situation.
Yeah, that's 100% true, Gary. In this situation, and it's been years, but I'm guessing he was the reason why we were there. He was the one causing problems, and anybody else would have been more calm and collected and probably been happy that we were trying to help him figure out what to do with himself that night.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but next thing you know, some guy with a leather face could have came up behind, put you on a meat hook, and turned on the old chainsaw. Yeah,
that's the thing. That's if you look at the percentage chances of that happening, pretty good.
Very little. But you were talking about, we spar all the time in jiu-jitsu. It's a rough sport. To get better at fighting, you need to fight. And, if you're just doing plain jiu-jitsu, we're not throwing punches, but we're doing everything else. And, it just gets you more used to the adrenaline you're going to feel, the craziness that's going to go on, make you be a lot more calm in that situation. But, I think the other thing that jiu-jitsu at least has taught me, and, before jiu-jitsu, I think I would have been more apt to actually throw down with somebody who was, let's say a road rage incident, or, somebody just in a parking lot bumps into my car and wants to start a fight with me. I think pre-jiu-jitsu, I would have been more likely to throw down. And I couldn't fight, worth a lick. But I think the training in jiu-jitsu has got it where, I guess when before I started, I thought I was tough. I wanted that ego blast or whatever. And I guess now that I train all the time, I think, I can't say I get in these situations, that I would do everything possible to de-escalate it and walk away. Keep distance, do very safe stuff, nothing, not smiling at somebody like what you were talking about there. I think I would apologize profusely, and try to de-escalate it.
Yeah, Gary, that's the smartest thing. And if for no other reason, then there's such a high probability that you both end up losing. I mean, you may quote unquote win the fight, but if you injure the guy in the process of it, or you get injured in the process, there can be so many other ramifications to a fight besides who wins and loses. Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm going to do everything I can to stay out of it. And I don't care if anybody calls me a yellow-bellied chicken or
sapsucker.
A yellow-bellied pony soldier. Is that what it was?
Joe, I would never call you that.
Okay.
Yeah. But, Joe, you make a very good point there, and I didn't even really think too much about that. But, I mean, man, everybody's so happy today. And, everybody's always, you hit me even though I started this and you shattered my jaw. I'm going to sue you. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, Joe has a podcast on jiu-jitsu. That must mean he's incredible. He's no yelly-bellied seersucker or whatever, it's pony soldier. He's a flat-out killer. Let's sue him for all he's got.
Yeah, that's Joe. I like that. That's one of the notes I have. There's more than one ways to lose a fight, and you could definitely school rules, playground rules, win the fight, and then lose huge later on. And just we
could lose our livelihoods. We could,
sure.
This gets out. Social media today. Prominent sea captain, beats up 12-year-old. And next thing you know, Joe
you're giving me too much credit, Gary. I haven't had much luck against 12-year-olds lately.
Yeah, and just in my situation like that, I was actually at work. I'm working. I'm trying to help people, and if I did get into a fight with that person, my whole goal is to end this in a safe manner. But not all fights end that way. He could, let's just say he almost knocks me out immediately. Now I'm fighting for my life. And that's the thing. And maybe I do damage to him. And maybe it's not one of those fights that I've been fortunate enough to be into where it's just I control somebody until the police get there. But
let's say you damage him, and next thing you know, he seeks restitution from the fire department.
Sure.
And
me
you
personally.
could lose your job.
Yeah.
You're all over. Yeah, you're all over the news. And you were fighting for your life, but because of your training or whatever, it's a shame.
Yeah, and you don't have to be at work to lose your job from something like that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, the next thing you know, you got people calling to defund the fire department.
All right,
so
Kerry.
guys, that's funny. You guys got into that. The negative ramifications and the injuries, because that's actually one of the things that really drew me to jiu-jitsu. I had done a pretty good bit of backyard boxing, taken some karate lessons, some taekwondo lessons, kind of bounced around some of that stuff, and really figured that was going to be my way to defend myself in my 20s and early 30s. And as I got older, one of the things that occurred to me was that I quit hanging out at the bars. I quit going places where I would get in a mano-a-mano type fight. And I thought, well, what kind of altercation am I likely to get into? And, it could be with somebody that like I had a buddy who drank too much in high school. And I remember he went over to his parents' house or his girlfriend's parents' house once and tore up the yard and stuff. And it's like, that's the kind of situation where I could see myself getting into altercation. Maybe one of my kids is 18, 19 years old and they've got a friend that's drinking or something. And they come over to the house being an idiot. I want to be able to stop them from being an idiot without having to punch them 10 times. And I was kind of at that point in my life when I was introduced to jiu-jitsu. My kids were a little bit younger, but that's what I thought about. I thought, here's a way to, sort of subdue somebody without having to give them a concussion.
Yeah. And Joe, think about how many YouTube videos we've seen like that. And I mean, let's go back to one of our guests. And I know we talked about it on the show, but Ryan Hall, that restaurant incident, Ryan Hall took him down and, stayed on top. And, basically the guy didn't get hurt. Ryan Hall subdued him, by using great technique where the guy wasn't, a danger to Ryan or any of Ryan's parties or to himself. I know there was that video with Matt Serra.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, in a casino. And Matt just held the guy down. I mean, Matt could have really hurt him. But with, that skill of control that you get in jiu-jitsu, you get in wrestling, where you can control somebody, you can keep them down. And I've had training partners tell me, hey, I got the guy on the ground, I went knee on belly, I held him down till whoever came to break it up. I think that is a very good benefit of jiu-jitsu is, we can control people without hurting them. Sometimes it may turn into a knockdown, drag out fight where, somebody may get hurt, but, in the best case scenario, I come in, I grab a body lock, I get my hips lower, I put them to the ground, and control back position, create very little space so he can throw elbows or headbutt me, and hold him there till the police come and break it up.
Yeah, looking at the Ryan Hall one, and it's been a while. I think I did, when I interviewed him, I think I talked to him about that a little bit. But
yes,
it's been a while. Looking back at his, I think one mistake that he made and his group he was with is after the altercation, you probably should leave. You probably should leave right now. Because didn't he kick the person out of the restaurant basically and say, get out of here? And then the person came back later and apologized to him. Like, that was lucky. The person didn't come back later and shoot him.
You don't know if he's coming back with a gun.
Yeah, like, so that are you going to trust this person that you don't know, that you just kind of handled easily? Yeah.
Hey, Byron, hey, I've got a really good story about that. Not to interrupt you, but I'll forget.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so a few years after I got back from Alaska, I was working on a drag or a crab boat out of Astoria, Oregon, and we went up fishing off the Washington coast, and a storm came and it blew us into a little town called Westport, and so we tied the boat up and everybody went up to the bar, and there's this girl dancing on the floor. Nothing but trouble, and a couple of the crew members danced with her. Turned out she had a boyfriend that was the biggest, baddest guy in town. And we end up with a street fight with like 4 or 5 guys off my boat and 4 or 5 of these other guys and this big giant dude who's like the baddest dude in town. But we happened to have a college kid working on our boat who was from Arizona State. And was on their wrestling team. so he had no problem subduing this guy. And I ended up with a bunch of stitches in my hand because I got thrown through a plate glass window. But other than that, nobody got hurt. This dude didn't get hurt. He very well could have. But you talk about the get out of town while you can. So the next day, the storm was going to blow for a couple days, so someone came and picked everybody up. We were all going to go home for a couple days, and we're at a gas station, and all of a sudden the car is surrounded by guys with baseball bats, and it was pretty hairy. And so, speaking of the negative ramifications, you've always got to watch for that. You don't know you win a fight, and the guy's so humiliated, and he takes drastic measures a day, a week later. So. Always something to remember, but be careful if you ever go to Westport, guys.
Yeah, not an endorsement for
Westport, Alaska, not West Point, Kansas City.
So that that incident or the Ryan Hall thing, like he handled it really well as far as keeping the other guy safe, keeping his friends safe, keeping but they should have left. And I don't know, maybe they did. I'm remembering it wrong, but I think they stayed and they enjoyed their evening. I think
that guy came back in.
Yeah. And
but I mean,
you should be gone by that
point.
Food. Yeah, you should be gone by that point. You should say, sorry, we're going to stick around for our meal. You can't trust the person doesn't come back with a better tool to deal with you. That's not safe. That's not street smart. That's Ryan Hall, really good at fighting, really good at jiu-jitsu. But I think that was an error, and it's just good to look at like what we could do differently after something like that happens. And so, like when you go to a restaurant, it's a smart idea to put yourself to where you can look at the front door or look at, if somebody comes in making a big commotion, you've got eyes on them right away. It's also smart to know where the exits are. Most people will want to exit the same door they came in. It happens any place. Like, let's just say that the fire alarm is going off at Walmart. 95% of the people will be leaving at the front door at Walmart while the store's filling with smoke or whatever there is. There could be somebody shooting somebody inside. They all go out the front door. There's exits all over that store. There's definitely some in the back. Like, you need to go to your closest exit and just leave. But if you're not aware of that, that's a street smart thing. You could possibly run right by the most dangerous thing, whether it's a explosion or somebody shooting or a fight, when you didn't have to. So that's a restaurant or a public place. street smart, keep an eye on what's happening around you. And a good way to do that is look at have your eyes on the front door because people are going to come in, but also look at those exit signs and know where they are. And those should be reliable. They're checked, here in Wichita every year. Make sure that the exits are clear and they don't have stuff in the way. And it should be a good way for you to get out of Dodge if you need to, Joe.
But today that's a little different, because of COVID. A lot of restaurants, a lot of institutions and financial institutions are shutting doors down, especially entrances, just to herd everybody in one entrance, so that you can check to make sure everybody's masked up. It's easier to file ordinances. So, I can, tell you my financial institution, the building I work at normally had 2 large entrances. And right now, you walk in, it looks like you can get out that way, but, you're going to be stuck.
Wow. Wouldn't have thought that, Gary.
Yeah.
So as far as techniques go for jiu-jitsu, I think, so what is jiu-jitsu designed to do? It depends why you're there and what you're taking in. A lot of us come to jiu-jitsu for self-defense and then stay for something else. And I'm definitely in that category of I'm not there for self-defense. I'm there because I enjoy it. It's good exercise. I enjoy the challenge of jiu-jitsu. But, I was fortunate, Johnny did teach us a lot of striking. He did teach us some self-defense principles, which I don't know for sure, but I think those go, it's like, I know them. And, I know I can throw a decent, jab cross combo or a little bit of head movement. I'm not going to be good at it.
I don't know about decent.
I'm not going to be good at it. But I've been hit a couple of times. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, you're getting to it. Go ahead.
No, I think a little bit goes a long way in that category. It's similar to you walk into the karate school, and every now and then they try to do a takedown or they try to do a rear naked choke or whatever. And you know what? A little bit goes a long way, even if it's done pretty wrong. They understand, somebody probably figures it out better than somebody else, and one of them ends up with a decent takedown. And they all feel what it's like to get taken down by a double leg or whatever. Like, they don't know the ins and outs of it, but a little bit can go a long way to preventing a takedown, especially against an unskilled person.
And Joe, I know you talked about you did some backyard boxing, stuff like that when you were younger, and I know you still hit bag and still probably train a little stand up, but and I spar every Sunday with the little gloves on, and we probably go 70%, but I always just figure, not that I figure, I still think I'm totally garbage, but I think that little bit goes a long way, and I bet Joe, you're in the same boat.
Yeah, and Byron mentioned that I've been hit a few times. And I think that's one of the biggest values. If you watch somebody that's not done any boxing or striking, when they try and get out of the way of the punches, they just move so much further than they need to, or the wrong direction, or and then when they get hit, they're dazed and don't really understand. So I think that's really key. And I like that you're wearing the little gloves, Gary, and I assume that when you say you're sparring, it's not just stand up, but you're doing like MMA type stuff.
Yeah, MMA. That's all. We're not going to the ground on this. It's just, I normally we do our first hour just 100% kicks and punches, and I
thought it was 70%.
Yeah, we're not killing each other, but and that's one part of the reason I don't want to put headgear on, because I want to get used to getting hit, stuff like that. It's it's not like we're killing each other, but I do think, and to be honest, I really started liking the sport. Byron knows when we first started, our school started going into a MMA vibe. And I thought I wanted the MMA at that point. I thought MMA was cool. Jiu-jitsu wasn't as cool. That was my opinion. And, I got hit a couple times, and I was like, man, I'm going to stick with this jiu-jitsu thing. And, like Byron and I, a lot of our training partners went the MMA way, and me and Byron kind of stayed in the jiu-jitsu way. But, now it's probably been about the past year, been working that. And it's kind of cool now, picking it up where, I kind of see it's almost like jiu-jitsu, where before it was almost just like I was just throwing punches. Now, I'm throwing that jab out there, to get you to react, and then I'm going to hit you with a cross or, hit you with that lead hook. And, it's, I guess, because I've done jiu-jitsu, back when I was trying to do MMA, I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu either. But now it's like jiu-jitsu, it's a big game because you're trying to set somebody up. And now I see that it's the same thing in striking. And, it's a cool mental game. It's, fun to try to set stuff up.
Yeah, I know this is a jiu-jitsu show, but here's another. I'm listening to you talk, Gary, and you're talking about the similarities between jiu-jitsu and striking, and I'm thinking that's one of the other values about doing a little bit of stand-up is how do you know when you're in that perfect punching range for your opponent to knock you out, or when you're at the perfect angle for them to attack you, if you haven't done a little bit of sparring. As grapplers, we either want to be well outside of their punching range or we want to be right up close to them. And it's transitioning through that punching and striking range that'll get a guy in trouble. And I think, like Byron said, just a little go a long ways. I think doing a little bit of stand-up will get you familiar with that distance and better able to judge it and stay out of trouble.
Byron and I, as first instructor, like Byron was talking about, would do a little bit of MMA, but he was really big into kapap, which is Israeli martial arts, so really a lot of self-defense. And, he trained a lot of different things, Aikido and stuff like that. So, he opened my mind to different things. But he would do I'll never forget one scenario he did, which I thought was cool. And Byron, this is over at the old gym across from Town East, that really nice one with the but so he had this big mat space, and he kind of, on the other side of the building, he had weights, and there was a chain link fence in between there with a little door. And one day there was probably 12 people in class, and he's like, okay, what everybody's got to do is we're going to start you on the far side, and you got to fight your way all the way to that door, that chain link door, without going down on the ground. You go down on the ground, you're dead. And, basically realistic self-defense, except I'm probably not going to get attacked by 12 guys unless I'm, on a set of the Warriors. But a couple guys did it, and, we just beat the crap out of them. Never made it anywhere close. And I'll never forget, I was so proud of myself. I get to the edge, and, I look, and there's 12 angry guys ready to beat me up. And I yell, hey, can't remember what I said. Hey, what do you want? And I pointed over to this, the total other side. Everybody's head looked over the other side where I pointed, and I just ran untouched to the door. And, I was always just remembering that. And I remember John's like, man, that was using your head. And
that's
he's like,
brilliant.
He's like, yeah. And, and that was one of the things John taught me, is like, you got to think outside of the box, be creative. And I just remember I was so proud of myself. Out of all the stuff I've ever done in jiu-jitsu or whatever, I'll never forget that day because I was just sitting there thinking, man, I'm going to take a beating. And, just use some of that guy's teachings and thought outside the box. And if real world scenario, that probably worked pretty good. Hey, look, the cops are here. And, everybody looks over there, and I run as fast as I can and hope I make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever do that while you're rolling, Gary?
Byron,
he does it all the time.
Byron will tell you, I did this a couple weeks ago. Did I not, Byron?
Yeah, he does it all the time. Oh, spider over there or something on the mat.
Or a couple weeks ago,
Bob.
Byron and Becky were right next to me. And when I'm rolling, a lot of times I'm having conversations. So, I was telling Becky, how much of a jerk Byron is and this and that while I'm rolling with somebody else. And so then all of a sudden I scream. And while my training partner was on top of me, so everybody, Byron and Becky and my training partner, all just stop and look at me. And I grab a single leg and take the back. It works good.
It's terrible. So that same day, Gary smarted his way out of getting beat up into the exit door. I just got beat up. I did the dumb method. I'm gonna try to get.
Do you remember that day, Brian?
Yeah, I do.
Were you there?
That was interesting.
But yeah, it was a real world. I thought that was unique of what he did.
You gotta do that with if you're gonna try that sort of thing. you got to be, everyone who's doing it has to try to stop that person from leaving that door, but also know that you don't want to actually hurt that person, because it is like 5 versus 1 or 8 versus, it's like that person is likely to get injured if it's not done right. So be careful, guys.
When I said people, a bunch of angry people, really all they were going to do is take me down, put me in a noogie, give me a noogie and a couple shots to the ribs, really soft, and talk smack to me. Like, they weren't killing me or anything, but I still didn't want to go through that.
So, Gary, I think that's kind of the point of smart jiu-jitsu games for kids. Kids play those kind of games all the time. Yeah. I've seen it where kid gets the medicine ball or something, and he's got to get it across the line, and the other kids are grabbing and pulling him at it, and then the next kid that gets it, he's got to head for the other line, and that's kind of that same thing. And I was thinking at the school in Louisiana a year or two ago, we played a game in the adults class where, like, you're both laying on your backs at opposite ends of the gym, and the coach drops the belt, and you got to jump up and run and be the first person to the belt. Sounds like a silly game, but what if there's a weapon presented in the middle of an altercation?
Yep.
Somebody pulls a gun, it skitters across the floor, and the first person that gun is going to win.
Yes. Yep.
Man.
Yeah. I think those are, great practical experience, that could help you in a crazy situation.
We would also do drill. Remember this one? Like you hold the tennis ball and you try to get it from the other person. Like, Gary holds the ball and I have to get it out of his hands. And that's kind of like fighting for a weapon type of a thing without actually a weapon. But can I control him enough to break his grip on that? And it really feels like I'm 7 fighting with my little brother, try to get the toy out of his hand. But we both know jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah. But so let's go back, all 3 of us, we've been training a while, all of us. But so let's say, we go back to when we did that, so let's say me against Byron, we've been training 6 months, and, we're totally garbage. But let's say today I just hit my 6-month training. I've been training 6 months, and Byron's my instructor, and me and Byron do it. Byron's going to destroy me now. With our experience of doing this so long, we can control limbs, we can control hips, we can control posture. We can pin that arm. We're going to, I just from doing jiu-jitsu for so long, I figured out ways to get leverage. I figured out ways to make your body weak and stuff that I couldn't do before that I just tried to do with pure strength. And, I just think jiu-jitsu is a great tool to keep us safe on the streets, wherever.
Yeah. So some things to remember, if that's happening to you, or if you might be getting into a self-defense situation, we're not on the mats. So the surface of the ground can play a huge role in the outcome, whether it's, dirt, grass, concrete, asphalt. Gary?
Can I stop you right now? I'm telling you, we had a very good instructor who really went into self-defense when we first started. I remember he used to tell me, when I brought my knee over to mount, don't hit your knee first, because you may be, on a in a parking lot and there's glass in there and you cut your knee open. But actually, now I don't ever step. We were talking about a step over to mount. Now I just slide the knee across. But you make good points there, and it was I didn't realize how blessed I was to train with Johnny, to start off with.
Another thing about self-defense, it's not necessarily one-on-one. So it's jiu-jitsu. I'm going to roll at Joe, and we're both going to, work on our jiu-jitsu, my jiu-jitsu against Joe's jiu-jitsu or whatever. So the benefit of the street, usually the other person has no idea what's going on, but oftentimes they have a buddy or a spouse or, a whole team behind them that's ready to get their back, or not take their back, get their back, that has their back. No, you have their back. I don't know. That is going to help them in this fight. This is confusing. So, but they could potentially have just one more person. So Gary has somebody in the mount, and he's talking to them, getting out of control, and suddenly, someone comes out of the kitchen with a frying pan and hits him on the head. Like, did you train for that, Gary? It's not necessarily one-on-one.
That's what I love about jiu-jitsu. And I hear people say all the time, jiu-jitsu is just good one-on-one, and it may not even be good one-on-one because I'm just going to bite you. And they don't realize I can bite you back. When I'm training with Joe, we're being nice to each other. I'm not going to bite him. He's not going to bite me. But I guarantee I can control you a lot better than you control me, and I can Mike Tyson your ear if I need to.
You tell me Joe has never bitten you?
Yeah, never.
Man.
But the one thing I liked about jiu-jitsu,
you're special, Byron.
I just nibble on Byron. I guess we better cut that one out. But yeah. But I think of jiu-jitsu, and we go back to stuff we've talked about here. You're being aware. I hope I was aware enough to know that he's got a buddy with me. Let's say I do, go try to finish a fight with this guy who started it with me, because I don't plan on starting anything. I'm not going to probably go full mount. I'm going to go knee on belly. I'm going to be holding those legs down or holding his hands down with all my weight. But I'm going to be, let's say I knew his buddy was off to his left, I'm going to be making sure I'm looking that way. If we start getting 5-on-1, it doesn't matter. But, let's just say he's got his buddy there and it's just one buddy. I'm going to be able to dismount easily and back up to keep that space so, buddy number 2 doesn't Bruce Lee me in the face.
Yeah, my preferred tactic in those scenarios, Gary, is I get the opponent in sort of a standing rear naked choke, and then when his buddy tries to Bruce Lee me in the face, I turn, and then he gets kicked in the face, and then I spin 360 real fast so the guy I'm holding's legs come out, and I spin.
I've seen that in a movie before, Joe. But I mean, even standing rear naked choke, it's if he's got a buddy with him, you can easily put the buddy in between you and him. You let go of the rear naked choke, push the buddy into him. You created some more space, and maybe you can get out of dodge.
Yep.
Maybe we can stall long enough for help to come. Who knows? But I do think, with our training, we are going to be in a lot better spot versus, not training and just thinking we're tough guys because I watch the UFC.
Yeah. So another thing, we're not on the mats. It's not one-on-one necessarily, and it's not safe. Jiu-jitsu is pretty safe. I mean, if you think about all the hours and hours of time you have sparring, compare that to just a minute or two of actual fighting, crazy dangerous. Your life is on the line. You get hit and you fall back in and crack your skull in the concrete. That could be life-changing. Or two people come. You're in mount. You're doing well, and somebody comes up and stabs you. Who knows? So it's jiu-jitsu safe, fighting super dangerous. Pretty simple comparison as far as when I am assuming somebody is not wanting to actually fight me because people are afraid to fight. I'm assuming the super dangerous activity is unlikely to happen, and I have to change my mindset in that. I have to assume, you know what? I hope it doesn't happen. I hope I'm not going to have to fight this guy, but I need to do every measure I can to make sure it doesn't happen. And also, if it does, it goes okay for both of us. But just high risk activity is super dangerous. So, guys, be safe out there.
But yeah, I like what you're saying though. Now we have a dilemma. You're talking about if it does go on to a fight, I need to protect myself, make sure I come out okay, but try to protect the other person. So then you get in a dilemma, do I just take this dude's head off real quick? He's coming at me. This is life or death. And I don't know, because do I just want to keep him safe, or do I want to freaking disable this guy as quick as possible? Do I want to get a takedown, go knee on jaw, grab a Kimura, and twist that thing as far as I can till I hear 12 snaps, and I think if it, maybe I'll get in trouble. But if that guy's coming after me and it's a real knockdown, drag out, where, I'm afraid of my life, I'm afraid for this. You have that dilemma. Do you finish it as quick as possible with as much force as possible to get that threat over with and get the freak out of Dodge? Or do we try to keep that person safe? For stuff we were talking about before, are you going to get sued? Or are you going to do that? Hopefully we're not the ones who started the fight, which could maybe, help us out if it did go to court. But that's a tough question there.
Gary,
I think I'd rip the arm off.
Yeah.
Gary, I had a police officer tell me a couple months ago that many people misunderstand the concept of de-escalation. They think it means that it gets to a certain point and then you slowly start to walk it back down. But the object is to de-escalate back to zero as quickly as possible. And in your scenario that you're laying out, a quick left hook, a clean knockout punch, and you've de-escalated the situation entirely. I'm not advocating that necessarily, but that is one way to look at it.
Yeah. I think if it boiled down to that, I think that's the way I would go. You
throw that Kimura on as hard and fast as you can, and he's probably done fighting.
Okay,
let me jump in here. Anybody.
You do, though. If you're Kimura somebody, you want to hurt them. That's what a Kimura is. But let's say, Gary, you get attacked by some guy.
Or Joe, I don't try to hurt you guys.
So exactly right. That's different. So you get some stranger who attacks you in a Kimura position.
Yeah,
let's just say it's 10 seconds.
To my mantle.
Let's say it's 10 seconds. He's in a Kimura, okay? So easy. Why not talk to him? Dude, I'm going to break your arm. I'm going to break your arm at your shoulder here. And look at his buddy and say, if he keeps fighting me, I'm going to break his arm. And his friend's going to, talk to his friend.
Every second, though, let's go back to that, though. Every second you don't de-escalate it back to zero, there's more of a chance that you're going to get hurt.
With his other hand, Byron, he's fishing for a knife in his pocket.
I don't know. That's the problem with these self-defense things. You get just it's easy to just make it worse and worse. I think before I'm Kimuring somebody, I could talk to them and say, dude, you're going to get your arm broke. Are you done fighting? And then look at the buddy, say, he's done fighting, right? You're going to stop him from coming back at me because I don't want to let him go and then he charges me again. But I don't want to destroy somebody's arm. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Joe and I are going to be at your funeral.
Well, I'm not, I
don't know, man. I just don't know if somebody's coming at me and throwing punches, if I'm not just going to rip that sucker off.
You might.
If I can, who knows? And get out of Dodge as quick as possible.
You think you could go full blast if he is screaming, like he's going to start screaming. You're going to feel popping. I think the humane person would say, are you done? This could be worse. I think you're done. And then look for a way to get out.
Man. I don't know.
I don't know either. But it's a bad spot for everybody because you're going to get sued. You're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
If you go to Jiu Jitsu,
am I really going to be in trouble? The guy started. I can tell you, I'm not going to start a fight. The guy started. He came after me, and the only time I may come after somebody is if I see them hitting a lady, hitting my mom. Well, my mom's passed, but hitting my family or picking something like that.
Yeah.
Or I would help somebody who's getting stomped on the street. That's when I would take the lead in a striking situation. But I don't know. I'd like to have a cop or a lawyer here.
But I think with jiu-jitsu, we're able to talk while we're fighting, and we're able to try to de-escalate that with our words.
I'm going to be biting, though, Byron.
That's not a thing.
I don't know if I can talk at that time.
I'm just trying to advocate for being smart while you do this, having the street smarts, after the fight's over.
Yeah. There's that fine line, though. It's, I don't know. I don't get into situations. I don't know what I would do.
If you think about it, you're more likely to.
But the thing is, I want to come home to my kids. I don't want any chance that I'm not making it home.
I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. I said one of the things that drew me to jiu-jitsu was that you could win a fight without actually hurting somebody. And actually, probably now that I'm listening to Gary and his reasoning, probably more accurate way to say it is you can win a fight by the method that you choose to win the fight. You can win a fight without hurting anybody because go back to one of the scenarios I'm looking at. One of my kids has a friend who drinks too much and he's here tearing up my yard. And You know, I don't want to hurt that guy. On the other hand, some dude's coming to rob my house. I don't know who he is. I don't know what kind of weapons he's got. I'm going to approach that scenario differently.
Sure.
But I think I see both viewpoints. Obviously, I do not want to hurt somebody, and I would choose the don't hurt. I would choose Byron's method, you know, if I thought that was realistic. But I agree with Gary that there's so many unknowns that I'm not going to rule it out.
Yeah, it's, you know, each situation is going to have its own merits.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, my first thing, this is me, is I want to come home for my wife and kids. You know, my second thing is not getting sued. My third thing is taking care of that other person. But, you know, that other person, especially if he starts it, which, like I said, I don't plan on starting fights. You know, he's the least of my worries. My number one worry is, you know, I want to watch my kids graduate. I want to watch my kids get married. You know, I want to have grandkids.
Yeah, but just I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. There are definitely times when you need to literally end this situation. Like if you got a guy in the Kimura, and if you feel like he's going to attack you again, and that's just a judgment call, and you're using your own gut. You know, like I let him go. He's gonna attack me again. Like I think you're perfectly justified. But if you got him in the Kimura and his friends like, dude, don't break his arm. I got him. I'll take him home. I'll make sure he doesn't attack you again.
I think that's a different story because the friend's already trying to de-escalate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But even if he's mad at you, if the friend is willing to help you not hurt his guy, I think you have to like consider that option.
I think in that situation, I would consider that option, you know, but I've got to make sure that friend doesn't get too close to me. I don't know what the freak's going on. You know, like if his friend comes running from across and I don't really know what's going on. Because remember, my brain has to interpret all this information very quickly. Because if that guy gets too close to me, you know, he can play Ray Guy with my forehead. And, you know, I'm not looking to get punted, 30 yards down the street.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a complicated thing. Each situation is unique. I think that being a martial artist, we're in the position where we have more control over our surroundings than the average person in a street fight. Yeah. And, you know, you on the mat, our friends, you know, we owe it to each other to, you know, try to help each other out and be safe out there. But ultimately, if it ends with nobody getting hurt or one person getting hurt, I don't want to be my friend getting hurt. Like, I don't want Gary to get hurt, you know? So if one person's going to get hurt, it's not going to be Gary. I don't want it to be Gary.
But I do think, you know, we've talked about this before. I think the thing about being a martial artist is, at least for me, and I know Joe mentioned it too, that, you know, I am more or less apt to fight.
Sure.
You know, I have nothing to prove. I feel confident in my skills. I feel like I'm competent with my skills, and I'm going to do everything possible to walk away where before I started jiu-jitsu, that ego would have got to me. You know, like, oh, I'm a tough guy. I can do this. Now I'm like, I don't care. Like Joe said, call me whatever you want. I'm going to walk away if I can walk away. And but I think that's the cool thing about a martial artist is I can walk away. I know I have the skill set. If it warrants and everything works out perfectly, and I do have to fight you, I'm just going to control you till somebody comes breaks it up. But you know, depending on what is happening, it could get escalated much farther.
Guys, we're going a little bit long here. I had another Street Smart situation with not necessarily self-defense, but so in the definition of Street Smart, it mentioned getting along with others, common sense, self-defense, and BS detection. And in reading those, I was like, man, it also matters when you travel and go to another gym, you know? Getting along with others, common sense, like knowing who you could trust, knowing are you in a good area of town, like knowing are these people, did you just walk into a serious MMA level gym, or is this a casual get together between friends, or somewhere most likely in between, like or a kids class, like all, you need to know where you are and what's appropriate for that room. And same thing with doing a tournament. Like, what kind of tournament? Is there $10,000 on the line where this person is going to do, you're going to have to literally injure the person, or they're going to be looking, they think that of you as well. Like, I got to break this guy's arm to get him to tap. That's different than if it's just for a small tournament or, something that's a little less important. So just a little bit of street smarts on the mat. Street smarts. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yes.
Just knowing people, knowing how to get along with others, knowing how to read somebody, knowing if your training partner is getting mad at you. I told my wife that the other day. I quit. If I feel like you're mad at me, I don't need to roll with you. Like, I don't want you mad at me and rolling. That's not fun.
Yeah. I got a good story about that. Joe, my big training partner, and I used to roll 5 days a week with him, 2 hours straight. And Byron knows this guy. He's 6'3", 300 pounds.
Huge.
He's a power lifter. He does those strongman competitions, but he's very agile too. And, me and him just trained constantly. And he one day, and, he'd kill me, whatever he wanted, he would do. But, he always treated me with respect and courtesy. But I'll never forget one day he kind of ended up like putting a knee on my jaw and, but jumped into a knee on jaw. And I got PO'd. And, I was ready to fight him right there. And, I turned the aggression up and, I'm pissed. And I was within seconds of throwing punches, and everybody in the whole gym was just stopped and watched, and nobody did anything. But I just remember, we can kind of go back to almost just what we were talking about. Him being a good person kind of stopped it real quick. And he's like, hey, Gary, and, didn't show any fear. He's like, hey,
why would he be?
Why would he be? But no, this is, you'll hear the part about my story here in a second. And he stopped it. Everybody was watching. There was probably 20 people in the gym watching, like, oh man, these guys are ready to fight. But I remember he just stopped it. It's like, hey, we're good, and patted me on the shoulder or whatever. And I was so mad, like I couldn't even talk, like adrenaline was pumping and everything. But what I really respected about that is he allowed me to save face in front of everybody by the way he acted, and like that ego did play a part in that. And, he knew he could easily done anything he wanted to me, and I was going to get killed. I just remember thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to punch him and I'm just going to get destroyed. But I was willing to do it. I was that mad. And I just remember I was like, damn, that's a good friend right there. What he did, he allowed me to live and allowed me to save face, like everything he did calmly. He was a police officer too, so he's used to stressful situations, but he allowed me to calm down in a good situation. But I just remember I was
Gary.
Yeah, de-escalated. I just remember I was really impressed with what he did. Because I didn't think it was going to end like that. I thought it was going to end with me in the hospital.
Yeah, he had two options when it came to de-escalation. I'm glad he chose the one he did.
Yeah, and that's when, because Byron will tell you, this was a very mean guy. And,
talking about Gary or the other guy?
But, me and him had been really good friends, and that showed me right there, the type of person he was. And, normally when we rolled, he wouldn't kill me or anything. But, that time it was probably a mistake, but I took it the wrong way. And, I turned, like Byron said, your training partner's getting mad. I'm getting mad, and I'm ready to throw punches. And, he used his skills to de-escalate it and, allowed a good ending.
Yeah. And that's with any training partner. You shouldn't train somebody who's mad. If you don't trust somebody, you shouldn't train with that person. If my wife doesn't want to roll with somebody, she doesn't roll with that person. That's pretty simple. And whether she has a good reason why or she has an excuse to tell them why, it doesn't matter. Oh no, thanks. I'm not going to roll with you today. Like it's not easy. Yeah, but it's an important way to stay. It's street smart. Stay safe on the mat, though. You read the person, and you make an adjustment based on what you're reading. And if you think that the person is likely to injure you. That's street smart. Don't get injured. Well, we could talk on this forever, guys.
This was a fun episode, guys. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was kind of neat outside of our realm because I ain't no ain't great English language.
You ain't no grammar expert, but neither is me.
Yeah. But I'm not a self-defense expert. I'm not a self-defense guy. So, yeah, it was just neat talking and hearing your guys' thoughts, and I really enjoyed this one, guys.
Let's let Joe hammer this article real quick.
I'll give it a shot. So Byron brought the article this week, looking for something different, and the question is, learn to skate at 40 or 50? You can do it too. Good article. I don't know. I didn't count that. I think there's 7 or 8 points here. Some are probably more relevant to jiu-jitsu than others. I want to deal with his number one. It says, can anyone over 40 learn to skate? That's the question. And then he's got, are you a sporty person? Which is a funny way to word it. But he's talking about, are you active, physically fit, good shape, that kind of thing. Says, do you have previous boarding experiences? The second point, like in jiu-jitsu, if you had some wrestling experience or something like that would be helpful. And that's what they're getting out here. If you snowboarded or surfed or anything like that. Do you have any physical issues, joint pain, mobility, etc.? And do you have any balance issues? And I actually almost take exception to his overall number one point here, because a new person could read it and come away kind of thinking, well, I'm not very athletic. I've not done any snowboarding or surfing. And maybe I've got a bad knee or something, and write it off. And I think that would be a shame. I think skateboarding, just like jiu-jitsu, I've seen so many YouTube videos of people who have had double amputations and they ride in like a seated position, but they're doing flip tricks and they're going on, big half pipes. I've seen people with cerebral palsy that are using the arm type crutches that they need to use, and they're on their board. I've seen people that are blind, and they'll take their tap stick and they'll go to the ledge and they'll figure it out, and then they'll get a running start on the skateboard and they'll jump up and they'll do grind tricks on the ledge. And of course, we've had guests on the show like Brian Marvin, who's had a spinal cord injury and has almost
Brian Freeman.
Or Brian Freeman. That's
Brian
right.
Marvin
We've had Brian Marvin
Ryan
on the show too. But yeah, we've had Brian Marvin on the show. But Brian Freeman, who's had a spinal cord injury, and I just hate for somebody to look at a list like this and think that they're disqualified from an activity like skateboarding or jiu-jitsu. You guys agree with me on that one?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know about. Go ahead, Gary.
I was just thinking it was just so cool, like what you were just saying about, a blind person with the stick in front of them, and people with cerebral palsy with the crutches. It's just cool that mind over matter. You can do it. And also, I was sitting there thinking, is when you were talking about that, it's like, man, that would just make my day to just see somebody like that skateboarding, and that's cool. It's I told you I want to start skateboarding and I just haven't done it, and it's just telling me I need to do it.
There you go.
I like it.
You want me to send you a board?
I like it. There you go. I was actually just in this article it was talking about. He's like, hey, check out my 2 reviews of longboards. I don't know the difference between a longboard or what, but I'm actually reading about the Arbor Drop Cruiser right now.
There you go.
No, and
yep.
so
Wichita's got a pretty good skate community. I don't know how I got hooked up with them, but I follow several pages out of Wichita skateboarding pages, and they've got a good community up there, Gary.
Well, good. I just tell them I know you, and I'll fit right in.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So
Byron, or I'll get beat up.
So Byron, the second point is you got to pick the right skateboard, and I think picking the right skateboard picking a skateboard is probably one of the first things you do before you can skateboard. What's one of the first things you got to do before you can train jiu-jitsu?
You got to get in the gym.
You got to pick a gym. There you go. So. I don't know if we forgot to plug it or if we plug it later, but you've got your first year in jiu-jitsu where you talk about picking the right school, and I think that's the obvious correlation here, huh?
Yeah, that's a good one. You can find the audio book in the BjjBrick shop and check it out, my friends. And it's basically, I think it's about 2.5 hours long, and I walk you through what to expect your first year on the mats, just even from picking the first gym and starting to competing, if that's something that you're interested in. Joe, I'm looking at this thing, and he tries to make getting on that skateboard and doing it as simple and as easy and as safe as possible. And that's the way I think I try to introduce my friends to jiu-jitsu, is I want to be there the day that they're on the mat. So I try to have them come in the day that I'm there, and I try to get them, a good instructional where I can work with them a little bit, or maybe somebody else that's better or more helpful to them. And then I make sure that if they do get to roll, that the rolls are enjoyable and they're challenging, but they get to experience at least a little bit of offense as well. And thinking about my first time on a skateboard, and reading these things about, first off, I don't skateboard. That'll be clear in a second. But reading about picking the right board and how important that is, I hopped on my neighbor's board and basically immediately fell. And I couldn't stay on it. And, even hitting a small pebble, and I was getting launched. And so I just I'm not doing that. Not going to do it. It's terrible. But reading about it, I don't know how hard of a board that was for a beginner. It sounds like it was a really hard board to get on. And I just jumped into the deep end. It's like, hey, I'm going to go with this black belt, smack him in the face, and then I'm going to try jiu-jitsu. It goes bad. Hopping on his skateboard, my buddies, and trying that was the wrong thing to do if I wanted to get a fair try at skateboarding. It was a bad take, I don't think I'm going to pick it up as a hobby, but looking at it now, I would definitely be looking at the size of the board, the type of wheels, and the height of the board, all these other factors. I hopped on a guy who was a fairly talented guy, and his board, and man, that sounds weird. And I just fell immediately. That also sounds weird. No, but I had just a bad attempt. It's like if you tried jiu-jitsu one time and it wasn't for you, maybe it was just a bad attempt. Maybe at the gym, you walked into the wrong type of gym for a new person to try jiu-jitsu. And you could maybe try a little bit friendlier gym, or maybe a gym that meshes with you better, which is an important thing. It's a good match with you. And maybe jiu-jitsu is for you, but maybe that one experience was a tough first experience, or maybe at the wrong gym for your first experience. But, if you're obviously listening to a jiu-jitsu podcast, you're interested in it, you owe it to yourself to keep trying and find a place that's for you.
Yeah, I think you touched a little bit on there. We start over again. I think you touched.
I got it all.
You talked about the right board, and I think you kind of touched on knowing what you want out of skateboarding. Do you want to just cruise? Do you want to do skate park type stuff in quarter pipes? Do you want to do street stuff where you're ollieing up onto ledges and doing grinds? Because there'll be a different setup for each of those scenarios. Not that you can't use one board for a different type of skateboarding, but there's sort of an ideal setup for the individual and the type of skateboarding they do. So if you figure out what you want to get out of skateboarding, then you can do a little bit of research and figure out what the best setup as far as the size of the deck, the width of the trucks, the width of the deck, the size of the wheels, the hardness of the wheels. There's all these variables to consider. And I think the same is true with jiu-jitsu when you get started. We talked about self-defense on this episode. We've talked about competition on other episodes. We've talked about guys that are just hobbyists, and they're just in it for fitness and camaraderie. And depending on what you want to get out of it is if you've got 4 or 5 schools to choose from, that's going to have a lot to do with which school is going to be best for you, I think.
Yeah, good point, Joe. It's an interesting read. We like to bring in articles that are not jiu-jitsu related and drag them back onto the mats. So that's always fun. Check it out, ridingboards.com, if you're interested in doing that. But don't leave jiu-jitsu for that. It's just a side hobby.
Yeah, everybody could do something to get an extra hour of fresh air and exercise. So don't quit jiu-jitsu. But if you think you might like cruising on a board, check it out.
All right, guys. Well, I had a good time getting with you guys and doing these topic episodes. And
it was definitely a good time getting with you, Joe.
Yeah, you too, Gary. Nice talking to you, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me tag along, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm still working on my Kimura episode, Kimura the person behind the technique, and that's in the works. I don't know when that's going to be done, but I'm enjoying the process of a different type of podcast episode. So anyway,
speaking of podcasts, also check out Byron and Joe and myself on the Old Rollers podcast if you're wanting to get a little bit more of us. So,
Yeah.
Old Rollers podcast. We are all just on there. Joe's will be released probably before the show airs.
I don't know.
If you want, Gary says if you're wanting to get a little more of us, that one guy, I'm not sure he's listening to this episode.
He's plugging his ears right now.
Oh man, good shout out there, Gary. I almost forgot. So yeah, thank you, Old Rollers, for having us all make our appearance. So that was fun. Anyway, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats one of these days.
And don't rip the arm off in a self-defense situation.
Unless you absolutely have to. And then do it quick. Just like a Band-Aid. Just rip that sucker off.
Oh,
Make sure you leave your business card at the scene of the crime, but it's not your business card. It's Byron's.
I could sell business cards and people could just frame me for different crimes.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You can visit our website at BjjBrick.com for more good times. Swing by and like our Facebook page. Our email is BjjBrick@gmail.com.